Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and everywhere else online. Welcome to the SCV Insider Show with Tim Blankenship and yours truly, Connor MacIvor, where we talk about the issues and things that matter most. And today's going to be a hell of a show. We haven't been here for a month, but we've both been dealing with getting the show formatted properly so our audience can have the best time. How are you, Tim?
I'm doing well, Connor. Good morning. How are you? Glad to be back.
Good morning. Thank you so much. Good to be back too. October 23rd, folks, 2023, and there's a lot to talk about.
So my calendar shows the 24th. Is that what you said?
No, I didn't, but it does now. I need to write this down somewhere. Yep. Oh, it's right here. It's in the book. 24th. Good. I'm reading the wrong book.
Very good. Yeah, we have our new and improved focused show now with divorce and real estate updates here in Santa Clarita. Isn't that right, Connor?
That is correct. And do you want to open with the divorce section? Should we go to the news first and then get back to that?
So I don't think we were doing the news unless you had something to share related to that.
I just had a question that's going to be a real trigger for a lot of people. And maybe you can help me out with this. I'm just confused. That's all. And I really don't have anybody to talk to, right? I kind of feel like I'm in prison. So the question's this: with what's going on in the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, a very, very old history there. I've met people recently that are on a different side. They're on the Palestinian side. I mean, so I guess I've always known that, but for some reason, watching the news events about this, it's like, is there a clear good entity in this fight? Or are they both a little muddied? Or is that even proper to ask? I need your help.
Who are these two entities you're referring to? The Hamas versus the regular Palestinians?
No, Palestinians versus Israel.
So,
or maybe we should back it up. So my understanding is Hamas is almost like a militia, like we would have here, maybe. Or am I wrong? I know they did horrible things. I'm not saying militias should go out and do those things, but are they the same as that? Or are they a terrorist? Is that because I'm going to stop. You go ahead.
I feel like an expert on this, but I'm not, only because I watch so much news. It's been pretty interesting and scary that the world's on fire like that. But from the news I'm watching, they're saying Hamas is straight up terrorist organization and inside Gaza. And the problem with distinguishing between Palestinians, that live in Gaza, and Hamas is they're the terrorist organization. They are Palestinian, but the Palestinians have been indoctrinated their entire lives to hate Jews from the day they're born. They're showing cartoons with, that they're watching that, your parents died because of the Jews. So they're from an early age as Palestinians, even though they might not be Hamas, they are born with this hate of Jews and Israel. So it's, even though they might not be terrorists yet, I mean, they're already in that mindset. So it's kind of right. Scary. And then my wife and I have been watching a ton of historical movies and documentaries regarding this, just going back in history and, how this started in whatever, hundreds, thousands of years ago. And
right.
I think the most interesting commentary I saw was they were interviewing the son of the founder of Hamas. And because I was saying, what is this about? Is this about land? Is this about territory? But this is straight religion and straight terrorism with the ideology I say that right? Ideology of straight up killing Jews and removing Israel from the face of the earth. That's what I got.
Okay, so I'm there with you, but when you're with people and they are on the side, if they support Hamas and they tell you that directly, they don't like how they did it. They just like that they did it. They don't like it done that way. And they tell you that, but I don't know.
You're talking about the supporters?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
But I mean, people here, you meet and you talk to people in my business, there's that support there. And I don't know how to feel about that. I mean, I'm not like a slave to it, but I'm just curious because I never was in that quandary before. So I mean, are they good to be friends with? Or
I personally, if you're asking me, I find it bizarre that anyone could condone what's been done under any circumstance at all ever. So what scares me is that there are, what is it, about 20% of the population that backs Palestine and Hamas, and they can't distinguish between the two.
Yeah,
it's like
it's all the same. Same uniform.
Pro-Palestinian, but you don't have to be. Doesn't mean you have to condone the actions of Hamas. It's. I don't understand why they can't figure that part out.
I'm wondering if it's like if you live in a gang infested. This is just I'm going to slaughter the whole thing. You live in a gang infested area. You're that person that doesn't have any kids in the gang, but you're kind of scared for your life, and you witness a crime outside committed by the gang. Maybe you don't say anything.
Right.
Maybe you keep your mouth shut because they're going to burn down your house and kill you. Maybe. Is that similar?
Sure.
Do you think?
Someone referred to Gaza as an open-aired prison, essentially, and I thought that was a good.
Wow.
Right. So that's kind of what you're referring
to. That's deep. Wow. Yeah. A lot of shankings go on in that yard, my friend.
Yeah. So
you remember that from the days we were in Folsom. It's horrible.
Yeah, that made sense to me.
Wow.
So yeah, no, I get
Very
it. These
clever.
people have no choice. The Hamas leaders have been voted into their Congress, if you will. I think they have like a 70% stake in
majority, right? Yeah.
70%. So I mean, but like you said, you didn't vote for me, and then you're suddenly murdered. So, but for them to do what they did, and then go back in and then use their own, not only the hostages they took, but their own people, if you will, if they even consider them their people. I mean, they're being now killed because of the bombing Israel's doing, and they brought that on their own people. They knew that was going to happen. This was all planned. This is all they knew. This was exactly what was going to be the response.
With that's exactly right. It's just a very you have this fight that's very, very old. That analogy you gave, the open air prison, boy, that's so valuable.
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense. But it's just a very Israel now, they're waiting to go in. I thought they would have already gone in and tried to expose the tunnels and all that stuff already. I'm curious what they're waiting for. Have you noticed? Did that strike you as odd? Now it's 3 days, because the news was like, oh, they're going in any minute. It's going to happen. I mean, it's here. And now it's 3 days later. They're probably then yesterday. They're probably going to go in anytime. Why wouldn't they? Or is it a tactical thing, you think, or strategic?
Well, I am no military strategist, but
come on, Tim. You're much more of a military strategist than you know.
What I'm hearing is just in what I'm listening to and watching is they are. This is all intentional with their slow drip of hostage release. So they let those two Americans go. What was it, last week? Because I think they thought they were getting close to invading, and now they've let two more go yesterday. And there's this thought process that they're going to do this slow drip, and that the U.S. now has admitted to pressuring Israel to not go in, as they want to continue to negotiate, I guess, which is happening, behind the scenes and through Qatar, to get hostages out. And so they're going to be try and drag this out as long as they can until they can get, and then use the news cycles to get more people on the side of the Palestinians and even Hamas to, stop the ground invasion entirely.
Wow.
Plus you have, Iran behind the scenes saying, if you go in, we're getting involved. So,
and Russia's playing and China's playing and everybody. This is like a good opportunity to get some more land, more real estate. Guns. That brings us to real estate.
More guns for sure.
Oh my God. Yeah, and then that was going to be, that brings us right around to real estate. It's interesting too. You mentioned it. I was the hostage release. I thought that was weird. I mean, such a bad terrorist organization releasing hostages. Now, have they talked
that's the game.
At all?
Yeah.
Have they talked at all? Have they interviewed any of the hostages? Have they talked to?
They didn't say. I didn't see anything.
I don't think
about
so.
The first two, but the two that were released
Females,
yesterday,
right?
They're. I don't know who they were talking to the news, and they were saying how that they are. And here's the other play is they're saying how they had medical supplies and they're being treated, decently inside as hostages, giving medical care.
The raping stopped. The raping stopped when they got into a hostage situation?
I suppose.
Like it must have stopped.
She was saying how they were originally in groups of 25 and then they got into smaller groups, and then she was explaining the web. The tunnels are like a spider web. They go everywhere underneath Gaza.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So there'll be more to that. I don't know how much they'll let us know, but I'm sure our intelligence and Israeli intelligence agencies are getting and talking to them and interviewing them in depth to get as much information that you can as what's going on.
Right. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch play out. I just want to see if these other big players are really going to back what they've said about U.S. doing anything, and I guess we'll have to be careful too. I'm glad we have the president at the helm, though. Well, I'll tell you, I feel good about that.
That's what's scary. You got me all agitated. I know we were talking about all this morning.
Sorry, I threw a wrench in there. After we did this great format for the show, you would have been so impressed. I had to open with this because I just had a question. So there's
and honestly, it's something we can't not talk about, right? I mean, it's relevant to everyone. And I'm surprised that there's still people that don't know what's going on. I was getting a haircut a couple days ago, and we were talking about
show off. By the way, you're such a show off, you and your hair.
Because I can cut it. Yeah. That we were just having a conversation. They were doing that day of rage, last Friday, and so because people kept their kids out of school, so I was just talking to the guy who cuts my hair, and the guy next to me goes, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" And he had no idea what's going on in the world. So,
oh my gosh, okay.
I guess maybe it's just people just go on with their lives. They feel unaffected by it. But everyone's basically saying this is the most scariest time in our lives right now. This could totally implode, or explode rather. It could turn into a whole, more than just a regional war.
Yeah. Yet we feel so relaxed. And we're still wondering why gas is $6 a gallon. How's that even work?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, though, this last 2 weeks have been slower, and I want to say it might have something to do with this. What's going on, perhaps?
You mean the divorce end of it?
Yeah. Just
tell me about that. So you're not getting it. You saw that. Interesting. Okay.
Still busy, but it was crazy busy last 2 months. Like I could barely keep up. 12-hour days, and up at 3:30 because I know I have to get documents out and stuff. And then now I'm kind of caught up, and sometimes I'll have to pick up the phone, make sure the still a dial tone. So
wow, you just aged yourself 1,000 years. Dial tone, what's that?
Is that
I don't think anybody has a dial tone anymore. Well, I get
I don't use my personal cell phone for business, so I have an office phone that reception calls and rings through.
Gotcha.
And I make all my calls on a business line.
What's the most interesting thing you've seen? Has there been any changes? Anything the people? I know you do a bunch of updates, but what's in the divorce realm that's new and different or weird you might want to talk about?
Nothing's really new or different. It's just a lot of the same thing, slightly different circumstances with people trying. I think the biggest issue is people trying to do their own divorce. Thinking that it's easy process. Because I've told you this multiple times, half my business at least is people who come to me who've already filed and then got stuck in the process and have all kinds of issues. And the issues are, slightly different, but they follow this very similar pattern of it just being a complex process and them getting stuck in a procedural quagmire, if you will, unable to get through the process, because it is, the interesting thing about divorce is you can be completely amicable in agreement and still never get your divorce approved by the court because of the technical reasons, the procedural reasons, or you're not documenting things correctly, you're not saying things correctly, or as simple as just not checking a box on a certain form, causing rejections. And some can be issues or mistakes you make that set you back months, where you have to go back and start from scratch. essentially. I had a couple of notes here. I just wanted to bring
Absolutely.
up. Just to like specifics. Like I give you an example of what I'm talking about. I took on a case that was 6 years old. They had filed 6 years ago, served the divorce paperwork, and they were trying to turn in their judgment now. They've been going at it this long, and they're in agreement.
Okay.
And the judgment was continuing to get rejected. So I had him send over his paperwork. And the issue was with the initial petition filed 6 years ago, we had to go back and amend it and then reserve it, which doesn't reset the clock on the 6 months, but resets the clock on when you can turn in your judgment for review. So it adds another 30 days before you can actually finalize. So it's like 6 years, now add another month before they can, because they basically have to start over. People feel like here's how people get baited into thinking divorce is easy. The petition is pretty straightforward. It appears so, but people, I won't say always, 90% of people that come to me after they start the divorce, we have to go back and amend their petition, and it always adds more time to when it can be finalized because it resets the clock on when we can submit for approval. Even though it appears to be an easy form, and that's why people, I think, start their divorce like, just a couple check boxes, date of marriage, date of separation. Do we have assets and debts? Yes or no? But there's always a box that's missed regarding spouse support termination or child support, or they do something wrong with the asset list, with property declarations and so forth. And that causes us to have to go back and amend it so we can then move forward.
I see. And that's a 30-day. Once that's amended, that's 30 days. You have to wait.
We have to amend the petition. It has to be reserved, which then resets that 30 days before you can finalize, assuming your 6 months have already passed.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you do a lot of those great updates on Instagram and TikTok. It really makes it clear if you're ready to go ahead and cut that wire holding you on to your significant other. Get rid of that baggage and move on. As long as you're amenable. Amenable?
Amenable.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so that's the paperwork issue is what affects people, even when they're in agreement. I always tell folks I'm having consultations with them, like, look how much challenges you've had or come across in your divorce, and you guys have been in a full agreement this entire time. And we'll see them taking a year, 2 years, like in this case, 6 years. Just go, and I think what happens is they'll go through the process, they'll hit a road bump, they'll get a rejection, and they're like, I thought I was going to be approved, and then they take a couple of months off because they're so frustrated in the process, and then they'll go back at it, and then they'll try and do it again, and they'll get a rejection. And I think that's why so much time gets added on, is the frustration, and plus you can't get help from the court. Here's an update, interesting, with LA County. They used to have a self-help center where you could go in and get some help with the court, and now they've gone to a call center scenario. So you can't even get a hold of a clerk or the self-help center. You're getting someone that is different every time. Imagine you call your bank and you get a different person every time you call, and people are calling.
Repeat the story.
Yeah, people are calling and they say, hey, I need help with this, and they'll try and help them. Remember, they don't have their form, they're not reviewing their paperwork, they're not doing anything like that, but they'll say, hey, here's where I'm at, this is what and they'll give them some, not advice, but here's what you need to do next type scenario, but not helping them with the forms. And then they'll call back, get a different person who will tell them something else. I mean, honestly, I hate to say this, but the LA County going to a call center has probably been the biggest boom for my business, because the people are just not able to get the help anymore.
Oh, very good. And that's where you run into a lot of bureaucracy dealing with even just the paperwork, right? Even do you have to call the court? Do you ever have to talk to a live person, or is your stuff all mail or whatever?
Yeah. Email? So the courts won't talk to you either way. There's nothing to discuss with them. It's all paperwork, and it's just knowing procedurally what paperwork needs to get through and where they're, like, if we start from scratch, I have a certain flow as far as the paperwork goes. If they come to me having already started the divorce, I'll review what they've done so far, amend anything that needs to be corrected, and then we'll just proceed and move forward with finalizing their paperwork and submitting. But yeah, there's no interface with the court at all until you submit that final package, all the final paperwork, and that's when they'll take it, review it, and then either reject it or approve it.
And on those approvals, do people, because they're amicable, they don't have to see a judge, or they never go? They never go to court. All paperwork.
Yeah, never go to court if you are in agreement and sign off on all the paperwork. I had a gal call me last week, or was it this week, and said, I want to come in your office. I have some paperwork I need to prepare to go to court. And I said,
right.
Why are you going to court? And she was obviously more of an expert than me. She says, well, everyone goes to court. Everyone knows that. I said, my clients don't go to court. She goes, what do you mean? I said, my clients don't go to court. If you're amicable, you sign off on all the paperwork. It's like buying a house. You go through escrow and you do the paperwork. It gets signed, and the judge approves it, and you're done. And I think she was so taken aback that she couldn't believe that you did not have to see a judge in order to get divorced.
I wonder if she's been getting this from other people she's interviewing, or were you her first stop?
I don't know. There's so much bad information out there regarding divorce in California that half the people have gone down a different path, and they'll call me and say, because I cut right to the chase. I don't go through the drama. I don't care about your backstory. The courts don't care about your backstory. It's irreconcilable differences. The drama.
Yeah, you're a real caring shoulder to cry on. I'll tell you, people needed to cry. Yeah.
And I think people appreciate that, because I never asked, are you getting divorced? Not that I don't care, but there's no reason to open up that door, because it's irrelevant. Let's just get the paperwork done. I don't want to bring that up to where now they're emotional again. It's like, look, make this a business decision. It's finances, it's custody, and support. That's what needs to be addressed. The emotional part is just going to mess you up more.
Yeah, that kind of runs the same parallel with buying a house. A lot of people make that an emotional decision, and they can't move forward. Sellers do it too. They become, once they see their house in pictures and it looks really good. I've gotten a lot of calls. I don't know if I want to sell anymore. I think they're kidding. Well, it's all been jesting up to this point, but then when we get into escrow, sometimes that ball gets real hard and they don't want to budge, and buyers do the same thing, and they make it the issue that the seller's doing this on purpose to try to get one up them. And then the sellers think the buyer's doing the same thing. And realistically, if they pulled out that emotional component, it'd go through easy. But
so you're saying the sellers get emotional about selling their house after they see it all spruced up and on.
Yeah. So I'll get that call. Yeah. Oh gosh, it looks great. I don't think we want to sell anymore. So, I think they're jesting. They're not really being serious, but they're with humor. There's truth behind it sometimes. Not that they're going to pull out of the listing because they really need to sell. We've already gone that far. So usually they won't cancel unless some tragic event, somebody croaks or something. But once it moves forward, but they make that call, but then they also hold on to that emotional component when, they hear the stories, right? All those people that are calling you, they've talked to their brother and their uncle, and everybody bought a house, everybody got divorced, everybody knows how to do it. This is what happens. They give them all this bad information. Then they come to me, and I have to start over just like you do. I kind of have to I have a certain list that I do when I'm talking to a buyer. These are the things you need to prepare for. And I'm not even talking about real estate. I'm talking about the loan part of it, because you'll get taken there as a buyer. You don't pay my commission, but you do pay other things called closing costs. And those other things, depending on who you're using to get your loan, there's a closing cost there, usually 1 or 2%, just depends. Depends on the lender and what you're paying for it. And then you have your part of title, your part of escrow. This could be a 3% or more charge based on the sales price of the residence. And for that money, you need to kind of, know what you're getting into, but it becomes emotional. And a lot of people seem to kind of lose that traction. So I got to bring them back. I say, this is what you need to pay attention to.
I have a question for you. We have clients, lots of clients. This has been going on for probably a year, who are getting divorced, but are not wanting to sell the house or refinance the house because of interest rates. They're deciding to hang on to the house for up to 5 years. We've had 2 this week. They're in the settlement agreement. They're going to keep the house for up to 5 years, and then mutually agree sometime during that time period of when to either sell it or refinance it and buy the other party out, because they want to try and keep it. Sure. What would be your advice to those people?
If they're sitting on a 2 or 3% interest rate, they really need to sit down and look at the numbers and make a decision as to how much they're saving at this point, what that investments looks like to them, and then what that property is going to potentially become worth at the end of the span if the market stays as it stays, a nice, smooth, gradual upshift in home prices. The issue we have, though, is coming up with the interest rates being high now. I don't know what's going to happen next year, but typically before elections, things change and real estate starts to look better. So I would guesstimate that they might be reducing those interest rates next year prior to the election, so somebody could take credit, maybe. But if those interest rates come down to the fives, for buyers, they're going to be in the world of hurt. Sellers are going to love that. So these people that are holding off on selling their house, they might see the top of that market next year, because once they drop interest rates with a 5 in front of it, well, you sent me that update too. Thank you very much for that. But once they do that, you're going to see buyers go nuts. You're going to see 15 to 20, 25% or more increase in home value. That could be these people's secret weapon next year if they hold off. But, holding on to the real estate, if both of them can do it and they're okay with it, I don't see any negative except the unknown. We don't know what's going to happen with the market. Now we have this war thing going on. That stopped a lot of transactions. Yeah. Just like your business slowed down. Real estate's been slow for a little bit, but that slowed it down even more because people they don't know if we're going to be nuked or not. I guess that's the ultimate decision. So I would just tell those people, I think that's smart. Right now, we have a lot of real estate that's not coming onto the market. I talk to sellers all the time. They want to sell, but just like your clients, they're stuck at 2 and 3%, and they don't want to sell and just get the hell out. They want to sell and buy something else. So a lot of times they're moving from this expensive market, California, maybe Idaho or Tennessee or Kentucky. So that's a less expensive market. So when they have a higher interest rate, and a less expensive house, it's more manageable in their mind, but it's still hard for them to get away from that 2 and 3%. So there's a big discussion.
And you're the expert on this. The people that have a 2.5% interest rate, and there's a lot of people out there that do, even if interest rates come down from 8 to 5, it's still double their current interest rate. I don't see, it might make a couple people budge and sell. It definitely, I think more buyers will come in if the interest rates drop, because there's people on the sideline. But for sellers, do you think, they're still doubling your interest rate instead of tripling it. Do you think that's a motivation for some to sell?
Well, yeah, because if you watch property prices go up, you remember this last year, we had property prices, people were offering $70,000, $150,000, $200,000 more than a property was worth. They didn't care what the appraiser said. They were going to pay cash the difference, and they had a loan program that would allow all of that. And they were more than happy to buy. And those people right now are about even or better in this market. So fast forward to the seller issue in the future. If they look at, if interest rates drop to 5, sure, it doesn't help out their interest rate, but they might be able to recoup quite a bit of money by selling that house at a higher value. I just don't know after this election. It's going to be interesting to see who gets in office, because that could change the whole dynamic. Depends on the side of the fence that they're on. Typically, real estate could continue to be awesome. So 5 years would be a great plan. But if they look at it next year, that advice is, see how those numbers are going up, see what you can potentially get for your house. Don't trust Zillow. Don't trust Redfin. Don't do any of the online estimates of value. Also, for people out there watching, don't put your stuff in there, even your home address. That information gets sold as well. Somebody doing an inquiry on your house, you're going to get letters, you're going to get phone calls, you're going to email. And if you say, well, I didn't give up any information, all I did was put in my numbers, my street address, there's Spokio. There's so many different systems out there that agents pay money for to do research. I have a list here somewhere of 1,000 people from Santa Clarita. I have phone numbers, cell phones, email addresses, names, addresses. The only thing prohibiting me from calling is I don't want to be that guy. Hey, it's Con. How'd you get my number? I don't want to sell anything. I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
But that information is very easy to find. So don't do that. So call your local agent, whoever you work with, who you love, and say, hey, what's my house worth? What do you expect? And then see if you can get that number maybe. But, that's a good plan as far as being at 2 and 3%. It's tough. And then some people in those circumstances, they'll buy the other one out. They'll do a refi. But again, that's a problem, or maybe a home equity line of credit, but those interest rates are not cheap either. So that's an expensive prospect to buy out somebody.
Yeah, we got a HELOC just to have one, just for, I don't know, backup emergency or whatnot. And it was, 4% 2 years ago, and now it's like 11%.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't touched it, thank God. But I could imagine, if someone did like, we're going back to the divorce part of it and doing a buyout, and then if they had used their HELOC, which some are doing, to orchestrate the buyout, and maybe it was at 4% when they did that, and maybe they cashed out 150,000 out of their HELOC to give their spouse to buy out of the home, and now that payment was at a 4%, now is at 11 or 12% interest rate. I mean, to service that, is probably doubled or tripled their price. Their payment.
Yeah, they want to get out. They want to get out bad. Yeah, that's a big price tag, that's for sure.
Connor, you did a video, I think it was this week, earlier in the week, or maybe last week, about why now is a good time to buy despite interest rates being at 8%. And it was interesting, the theory on that, if interest rates were to come down to 5, which I think is being projected, what that might do to home prices. Can we talk at lengths about that?
Yeah, we have right now such limited inventory, and the thing that you and I just talked about that low interest rate, that's keeping sellers from putting their house on the market. But the high interest rates are also causing buyers to slow down. So properties aren't moving as fast. In Santa Clarita Valley, average days on market 20 days or less. That's very, very common. So, properties are still moving really fast. Usually not many price reductions. If a house is overpriced, you kind of feel it first. You'll start to get feedback from other people, even other agents will call and say, well, this price, I mean, what was there gold underneath the floor? What is the deal with this? So you do those adjustments, but it doesn't take properties long to sell in this market. Still, interest rates 7, 8. Let's say they drop down to 5 next year. That limited inventory is going to go. I don't see that, as we talked about before, I don't see that as a big reason for a whole bunch of properties to flood the market. I still think sellers are going to hold on to them. They're going to rent it. They'll do something else, but probably not sell it at 2 and 3, because they probably will never see those again. So that's going to be the plan for a majority. So whatever inventory we have, maybe add a little bit to it, but it's going to disappear. And buyers are going to be in a frenzy. They're going to be screaming at each other. They're going to be competing. So whatever you buy, just like I said in the video, whatever you buy, base it on today's rates. But if you look at the future projections, all the very smart people, educated people in the financial industry, a lot of them are in agreement that interest rates are probably going to come down a little bit, at least for a little short time. And the government's not dumb. If they do that, then it's going to kick off real estate that's related to 50 different entities, builders, and all of the different service providers and equipment and those sorts of things. It's going to blow off. It'll blow the roof off. So we're going to have standing room only again if that happens next year. But if a buyer buys now, they're okay with their interest rate in the house now. Next year, if interest rates come down, they haven't been so invested into their loan that a refi wouldn't make sense. It would. Yeah. So if interest rates, usually they say if you can save half a point. I don't know if Trent's listening, but he's a lender, Tim, the other Tim. But, I rule of thumb is, and lenders might kind of shave this. I think if you can save half a point, it's worth it. But saying that, it also depends on how long you've been paying on your mortgage. Because once you refi, you're brand new. You might get a different rate, but if you pay in 15 years and you go to refi, now you got a new 30-year mortgage. It might save you a little
resetting, right? Of the mortgage.
It's painful, but people, I don't know why. I had a call the other day. Somebody, he'd been paying 20 years. They're a little tight. So he said, hey, he was talking about, I don't know if it's a HELOC, but he was kind of entertaining the idea if interest rates come down, maybe refinance. I'm like, God, you've been paying on your house 20 years. Now you're going to start over at 30. How old are you? And he started laughing. I said, at my age, I don't know if I'm going to make it. I don't know if I'll pay it off in 30 years. I don't know if I got 30 left. But he started laughing. But that's kind of that mindset is, should we move forward or should we not? And we'll have to find out, but base that purchase on that interest rate today, not what I'm saying or not what, because all of us agents, we have a horse in the race, right? We want to sell houses. That's how we make our money. Now in a very slow market, not much money is being made. So now it's time to really get that saw sharpened. That's that old, you remember those two people back in the Depression? This was in a book, a self-help book. They had two guys, Great Depression, work was hard to find. A logging company was hiring one person, one spot, and it paid pretty good for the Depression. So two guys show up, and they're given a stack of wood each, all equal. They're given a couple saws, everything from the thing. They're given tools and so on. So they're supposed to cut through all this wood. The first one that gets through the whole pile wins. So, and wins the job and going to be set for at least as long as he works there. So they get done. One guy whacked away his wood up half the time the other guy. He got done. The guy was
whacked on the show.
Oh, sorry.
There's a clean show.
He finished. He happy ending his wood pile.
His wood.
Yeah, he got his wood finished, and wow, here we go. So the guy that lost, so that he got hired right away. Congratulations, good job. So the guy that didn't get hired said he cheated. He cheated because every time I looked over to him, he was just sitting there. He wasn't even chopping any wood. And the owner looked, "Did you cheat?" He said, "Sir, every time he looked over, I was only sharpening my saw." So when it's dead, it's time to work on the stuff that makes it, alive when it's not dead, right? Those things. So that's what I'm doing a lot of work now on the videos and trying to educate people. But we're still getting calls to list properties. People still want to sell. A lot of the properties that are being sold, they had the question yesterday. I went on a listing appointment. Should they hold off to next year? And I said, well, I don't know what your mortgage is. I don't know what that payment looks like. Are you going to, because the property is now vacant, are you going to have it occupied for the next 7-8 months? Is it going to, because it was family before, now it would turn into a regular rental. They have no more family left. So then we had that discussion. What's that look like? What if LA County is kind of friendly to tenants? There's rules in place that if you have a pretty good excuse, you're not going to be evicted in that 6-month time frame.
It's scary.
You kind of carry it on. So the seller every month is bleeding out. Can I say that? Yeah, bleeding out's okay. Yeah. So every month they're bleeding out. They're not, they're paying and they're not getting anything in return because the property is not being paid for anymore. So we had that discussion. How much does it cost to evict? $7,000 to $10,000. But we don't know. That's hiring the law firm and getting it all in order. But when is that going to happen? Don't know.
Yeah.
So I also said, you would probably want a year's worth of reserves to cover everything just in case. And that's for a lot of folks that are paycheck to paycheck. That's a lot of us, right? That's just not going to work. They don't have a year's worth of what that all-in payment is. The mortgage, the property taxes, the homeowner association is expensive, about $400.
Yeah.
So that's all money that they have to pay out.
Connor, what do you think is going to happen to home prices when interest rates with the low inventory, interest rates might come down to 5 next year? Buyers are going to flood the market. Is that going to cause home prices to go up again?
A lot. Yeah, it will. It has to. You have a whole supply and demand issue. Then you have a lot of competition in the buyer's end of the market. Not so much the sellers. Sellers right now, it's kind of cute. They do very little. One of the listing appointments I went on last week, lots of pet, lots of smell. Carpet was being torn up, but there's not a lot that seller's going to have to do that property to get it prepared because there's just not much inventory. Next year, if interest rates do come down to 5, we're going to see this market kick off like nobody's business. And we're going to see property prices go up 15, 20, 25% or more in a very short time period. And it's going to be that same scenario where buyers are going to be talked to about potentially waiving whatever rights they can that are based on the contractual formula, and staying, instead of 17 days for inspections, cutting that down to maybe no inspection at all. We're just going to take it no matter what. We don't want any repairs. We don't want any credits. We want nothing. So this is how the offers are being written, or were being written last year. or earlier when the inventory was very, very tight and still had a high buyer drive, people were also willing to pay X amount of dollars over. They structured it kind of cool in some offers that I received on some of the listings. They would pay $20,000 higher than the highest offer seller had in hand. So they were offering that, and they didn't care if it appraised or not. So in those markets, buyers give away a lot of their rights. And then my buyers are saying, well, should I? That's a very slippery slope. If you say you don't want any inspections and then you move in and find mold, that's a problem. Or if we don't do any inspections, you move in and find out that the foundation is cracked because of a tree that has a deep root structure that cracked that foundation. You didn't really notice it during the time, but once you moved in and they pulled that big rug out of the way, now there's this big crack. Sure, you probably have a foot to stand on legally. I would guess you have to talk to an attorney. But on the other hand, you could have prevented that by not waiving your rights. But on the other hand, how many hands do we have? Another buyer would have gone in and said, I'll waive mine. So it's hard to win. It's almost like that Kobayashi Maru from Star Trek. You can't win except win, the house, but how much are you willing to pay for it? And the other thing too, when property prices get that high, you cannot base your purchase today. And I'll say it again, that people do this all the time. You can't base that purchase on interest rates that you're hoping to be. And the other thing that's really critical for buyers now is you got to know that all-in payment. If they have a gardener, you want to find out how much that gardener they're paying him. If they have a pool guy, or a girl or whatever person, you have to find out what they're paying him. It might not be your fee, but at least you'll get an average. It would be kind of cool to have utility bills, if they don't have solar. If they have solar, be really careful buying a house that has solar on it. You got to do those investigations and find out what kind of system it is. Is it, how much is the primary installer of that system making for medicine? Are they cutting any? There's new houses now being built, Tim, that have solar where it's not associated with the owner. It's associated with the builder. So this is brilliant. They build a house. LA says you have to have solar on everything being constructed 2019 or later, if I remember. No, I don't know. Anyway, so I think it's 2019. You have to have solar on all these houses. So it used to be they would give the new home buyer, the option to buy the system, buy extra panels, or not. If they didn't include in the purchase price, they got a certain percentage of the energy made by the solar, which is great. But now on some of these houses that are being constructed, the builder holds on to the rights for the solar array that's on the house. So that's paying into Edison aside what the homeowner is paying Edison for his electric. So they're almost using the house as a holder for solar panels that they're making money on as the builder. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's no benefit except for you got your roof covered in solar panels, and well, that's it. You just have a roof with solar panels.
That's interesting.
Very much so, right? I almost want to say that can't be legal, but
they're doing it.
They're doing it. It's just,
one thing, Connor, this last couple of weeks, we've been looking into solar. It's funny you brought that up.
Sure.
And we were working with Tesla Solar, and they came out and did a roof inspection, and they determined that because of the age of the roof, and it's probably is built in 97, so 25 years old. They moved some tiles, they took some lids off or whatever, and said, hey, based on that, the paper underneath the tiles, that's what actually stops the roof from leaking, not the tiles themselves.
Correct.
And that they didn't, based on the age of the home and the fact that the paper, their lifespan is usually somewhere between 20 and 30 years before you need to redo that. They required that we repaper the entire roof before they come out and do solar, because they're concerned of when they drill in and all that they will, even if they seal it as best they can, it could have the potential for a leak. So, I was telling Elia, I said, you know what? We've always bought new homes in the past. And this was the first resale home we bought. And we've only been here 9 years. And I would have never thought that we'd have to repaper our roof. I didn't know this. We never had a home long enough, right?
Sure.
To worry about any of those things. It's like when you lease a car, you never have to worry about changing your tires because you give it up before you need it.
You don't have it that long, right?
Yeah. So now so on top of the solar cost, they had a roofer come out, give us an estimate to repaper the roof, $12,000 just to because they have to take off.
You have a permanent tile roof, right?
Yeah, so you have to take off all the tiles and then repaper it and then replace all the tiles. I was shocked. I was like, you know what? I told Elliot, I said, next time, no more resale homes. We want new homes. We have to deal with this.
Did you already hire them?
No.
Are they done?
No, I think we're putting the solar on hold because, on top of the solar costs, is we were going to purchase it. Now another $12,000 to repaper the roof. I
don't know if that's everybody. I'll send you a referral that did a couple houses. I like the system. I can't remember what it's called. Power, I think, but I can send you the contact person for that and see if it's the same. You heard of them? Power?
No, is that
Power? Maybe.
Solar?
No, it's solar.
Yeah,
I don't think they require that. This is the first I've heard of this. From what I understood, is no, that's not iPower.
What Tesla told me, and we're sold on Tesla as far as solar goes.
Yeah, they have the Tesla stuff too.
Yeah, what they told us is the people that are getting solar installed, that Tesla's the only company that will do a site inspection because they don't want to have leaks, but that the possibility of leaks is so high when your paper on your roof is, older than 20 years. And so I checked with my neighbors who have solar, who just use Sunrun or, it doesn't matter who. They don't do the site inspections. They just, you want solar, you got it, bolt in, and everyone is. I asked them, they are getting roof leaks from that. So it's like, I don't even think I want anyone on the roof again, for that matter, let alone do solar. So, I didn't pay attention to the whole time of use notification that went out, whatever, a year or 2 years ago from SCE about the rate changes and all that, the different tiers and all that. Well, the reason we're looking at solar, because we have a little 1,500 square foot house. You've been here. And our electric bill was $750.
Wow.
Not this month, it was last month. I think for September, and we have a new AC, new windows, new door.
Oh, your house is tight. When I shut that front door, I thought my ears were going to pop. That's a tight house.
I was shocked. So we started looking into solar, and so I said, okay, I was talking to the neighbor about it, and she says, well, what time of use plan are you on? I said, I don't know. So we went and logged in, did all the research on that. I just did that last week. And so we were on the time of use prime, and that means from 4 to 9 p.m., that's the most expensive. In fact, it's 65 cents a kilowatt hour from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And then after that, it's the cheapest of all plans, 25 cents a minute, basically all other times. And there's 2 other tiered plans for that. And I said, well, this is simple. We just power down the whole house from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m., and just limit our usage, which is obvious, but we weren't doing that. I was running the AC, the whole time. And so now we're just being more strategic on our power use, and I'm going to be interested to see what our bill is. Maybe we won't even need solar if we just
try to watch the switch.
Yeah, like I'm doing the little things that probably make a big difference is, if we're running the AC, which this week's weather's been nice, we haven't had to, but we'll run it until 4 and purposely turn it off. And, it's been cooler at night, so it hasn't been a problem. And if it is still warm, then we'll turn it back on at 9. So it's not running during that most expensive time. You have a printer, big, huge, I don't know if you can see it, but have a huge, no, it's over here,
the one to the left of
copier. Yeah, big copy machine.
I see it.
And I would never turn that off. It would just hum all night. I just would forget and leave my computer on all night, and I'm turning the printer or the copier off. I'm turning the computers off, making sure the lights are off. If we're not in a room with if the fans are running and no one's in there, I'm turning off the fans. So kind of being the electricity Nazi, and the kids and Elliot's getting upset because, we have like one light on downstairs.
You're walking around with candles. Perfect.
My son came downstairs and he goes, Dad, what are you doing sitting in the dark? And I was actually watching TV. We stream. So I have Sling, and through Sling. So I was in the dark watching the news on my phone instead of the TV. He goes, "What are you sitting in the dark for? Watching the news?" I said, "Oh, we're trying to save on electricity."
Very nice.
Elliot says I'm being a little extreme.
Well, I've never known you to be extreme on anything.
Yeah. She doesn't pay the bills,
never.
so.
Oh my God. I sent it to you. So I have well, my sweetheart got solar and the bill stayed at $120 a month. Full panel array. If the roof would have needed a new paper replaced, they would have covered that. If memory serves, at no extra cost. And it's POWUR, and you call this Antonio Kuzman. That's his number anyway. And just
is it a lease
I know
or
him.
a purchase.
No, it's it'll be paid off at some point.
Okay.
But so it's a purchase.
Got it.
And you know what was funny? I remember these panels being so heavy they needed to crane them up. Now there was he was carrying 2 panels up a ladder, one guy, just like this, had his arm out. Not a big guy, carrying 2 panels, just on his shoulder, walking up the. So it's pretty awesome, and it works. So I like the company because when I was listening to them, at least in the forefront, they seem to be a little bit more, I hate to use the word transparent, than some of the other companies that I saw. But I like the roof thing, and I think that warranty's 20 years. They guarantee the roof for a Costco, I think it's 10. Most other providers are 5. These people, God, is it 20? It was long. It was a lot longer than anything I ever heard of. But they have for purchase, and you can also lease them.
Yeah, talk about transparency with solar. My mom called me. She's 75. She called me last week, said,
okay,
hey, I just want to run this by, 2 brothers, by you kids. We had someone's going up down the street selling solar, and they said it'll be, X amount of dollars a month. And I said, well, here's how my brain works when looking at solar or refinancing your house is what is the cost to purchase? What is your utility bill in this case? And how many years is it going to take to recoup that upfront cost, right? When
huge. That's a huge, that's a very important variable. People never think about that.
So I told my mom, who's 75, your time horizon for payoff is 15 years. You're going to be freaking 90 years old before this makes sense. Yeah. Why would you do that?
No point.
There's no point. I mean, not trying to kill her off, but I mean, honestly.
No, and you're right. You're 100% right.
Point, right? And that's where you win, essentially.
That's right. And also, though, don't forget, at least from what I've read, reading more about solar, those panels, about 15 years in, they're producing 50% of the power at 15 years.
They drop off that much, huh?
Yeah, I've read that. I don't know if the panels that she has do, but I don't remember. I don't remember that part of the conversation. But that's a good question to ask. What is the guarantee on a panel? I think these were lifetime, Tim. I think everything was lifetime, roof and panels. That's what I'm getting here on texts. I'm being educated right now. But I think, I don't know. I would look into a whole bunch before committing. And, I ask those hard questions. Are you guys recouping any money from Edison? Are you sharing in the profits that I'm sharing in? If be it transparent, right? Oh, real estate. So I'll come full real quick with this. Nothing against other agents, tongue in cheek, but some are very comfortable charging these administrative fees, like to hold on to a file or to do whatever. And these charges are $200, $300, $400, $500, $600. In good conscience, I can't do it. I can't have a home buyer pay that fee. Home sellers pay both. They pay the agent they hire to sell the house. They pay the agent that's going to bring the buyer to buy their house. So the seller takes care of that fee. So that's not part of my buyer's closing costs, like we talked about. Escrow, they're part of escrow, they're part of title, and the lender's fee. I'm not going to slap another fee on top of them for my office space or whatever it is. I see that so much. That's something to look for. Look at that small print. And as a buyer, make sure, and as a solar buyer, what does it look like? How long are these things going to last? Does it degrade? What's my maintenance? Do you guys come out and do it? What if there's so many questions, but these guys go door to door and they prey on the elderly. Not that she's elderly. I don't mean that, but she might be a spry 75. But yeah, okay, good. But no, they'll come and they'll sell her a song. And who doesn't want to help the environment, Tim? Who doesn't want to be green? Everybody wants to be green. But what's it going to cost to be green? If you're paying, $800 a month for electricity, you get solar, boy, your payment for that solar, better be better than that, plus whatever overage you're going to pay. It should come down. If you're still at $800 with leasing a solar or even buying one on purchasing, not buying it cash, but financing it, and you're still at $800, what's the point?
Right.
People don't think.
Agreed.
No, that's interesting. Yeah, I would give them a call and see what they have. But solar, we've run into so many problems that it's held up escrows because the system, the lease wasn't as easily transferable, or even the purchase wasn't easily transferable to a new buyer. And then also the new buyer has to qualify for the system. So if they're tapped out at $850,000 and the house has a solar system on top of it that's leased or purchased that the buyer's going to take over, now they have to qualify for whatever extra that is, 30, 40 grand, whatever that solar system costs. And sometimes it's a deal breaker. They can't.
Are they putting a lien on the house, the solar companies?
A lien for non-payment?
No, for the financing of when people are financing their solar systems.
Oh, that's interesting. I have not seen that, but I don't know, would I see that? It would be a mark on title. It's never been brought up. I've never heard that discussed. Good question. I don't know. Yeah, great question.
So it's a lease. It's not a purchase where they need to secure it against the house.
Correct. But because they still have their property, even though it's on their house, they still have the solar panels. I guess if somebody took them and sold them, I guess that'd be the only thing, but nobody's going to really go up and rip up their roof to try to get these solar panels off there. And just like you were saying, the more people you have walking on those concrete tile bricks on your roof, the more that are going to break.
Yep.
And, it gets expensive every time you have somebody, because everybody wants to come out and be the savior. Oh, let me get up there and have a look.
Yeah. Don't send me a fat roofer to my house.
Oh my God. Yeah. I was going to tell you, when I was 365, I could have done a walk on your roof. I would have broke every tile I stepped on. Now I'd still break it. Yeah. Very, very good. Right. On my knees. Wow. Oh, they do.
Connor?
Yeah. It was, it's good to see you, Tim.
Yeah.
Very good to see you. We'll be back next Tuesday, 8:00 a.m. Everybody, thank you so much for listening. This was the SCV Insider Show on the 24th of October, 2023. And we can't say happy ending on the show anymore, apparently. We've been outlawed for saying happy ending. Tim, thank you very much. I love you. It's good to see you.
See you next time.
Take care, brother.
All right.